Good evening, Twitter. I'm back, and this is the second topic that I wanted to talk about tonight. As you've probably heard in the news this evening, the U.S. House has voted to formalize the impeachment inquiry against President Biden. Now, there's been serious speculation or question about the validity of the original inquiry that has been going on. And this is one of the reasons that I decided to touch this topic now, because many people, from what I've seen in social media, many people are not very aware as to what's going on. And I wanted to explain, because I did mention on social media and writing a couple times earlier tonight that the validity of the inquiry is in question because it was never authorized. Now let me explain where I'm coming from. For those of you that may have watched the impeachment inquiry when it first started on C-SPAN or on CNN, when they televised the initial hearing, there were one or two representatives of the committee that called a point of order. And basically what the point of order was, and that they were disputing whether or not the hearing or the impeachment inquiry, as it were, was valid or not, was authorized, because with an impeachment inquiry, just as we saw today, they voted to formalize it. Basically what they're doing is they're voting to actually authorize the impeachment inquiry. Now here's the thing. That vote in the original inquiry never took place. What happened was that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he was pressured, or he was forced into giving them the green light to do the inquiry. Now the issue with that is that in order for him to be able to authorize such an investigation, such an inquiry, he needed to have been authorized by the House, and that requires a House vote, which also never took place. So, and what also compounded matters was that Kevin McCarthy said something in the past. He said that an impeachment inquiry or an investigation of this caliber without authorization, it's questionable whether it's invalid or it's even legal. Now, I want to say there was a reason why he said that, because he knew full well that if it ever got to an impeachment inquiry and he gave the authorization, or the inquiry was done without the specific authorization or full House vote, that the subject of validity was going to come up. Now, going back to that initial hearing, those points of order were issued. And Comer said, "Well, not so fast. We're doing this as a preparation for a future impeachment inquiry." Now, everything that occurred in the initial inquiry, everything that has happened has had a degree of formality, in the sense that they produced evidence. They produced evidence. They solicited testimonies, witness testimony, but none of these things were duly authorized by the full House. So there's a certain degree of questionability whether or not these things are even legitimately legal. Now, this is the thing. And this is where I posted this repeatedly with the House GOP, with the House Democrats, and other places where I've seen people comment about it. Is I said, okay, the validity of this inquiry is in question. It remains in question. Now, here's the reason why. Even though the U.S. House formalized the inquiry now, that doesn't necessarily validate what has been done before. Now, let's look at this as if let's assume they vote to impeach, okay? Which I doubt that's going to happen. I mean, it may or may not. The moment it goes to the Senate for trial, what's going to more than likely happen is that any piece of testimony and any piece of evidence that is introduced by the prosecuting attorneys for the House, the one thing that's going to happen is that the defense attorneys defending the president are going to question, okay, was this evidence properly obtained? Was it authorized? Was the testimony authorized? Were the subpoenas authorized? The thing is, they were not. They were not, because the initial inquiry was never authorized by a House vote. So that is going to really cripple the case that the U.S. House will bring to the Senate if it were to go to impeachment. And that's provided that if the articles of impeachment arrive at the Senate and they don't disqualify him for that same reason. That's why I've been saying there's a strong possibility that this impeachment inquiry is not valid, because regardless of the fact that they formalized it today, it doesn't change the underlying facts that everything that was done has been done before the approval. Now, anything that they discover now from the moment that they formalized this, or that they got the vote, that can be validated. But it's all the effort and all the work that was put in the initial inquiry that is subject for debate, whether or not it could even be admitted as evidence in an impeachment trial. It's kind of like, if you think about it, it's kind of like in a court. In an investigation, any evidence that is put in, usually the defense attorney or even the judge will ask, okay, was there a warrant issued for this? Okay, now if there's a warrant issued, then it's valid. But in this case, if there was no warrant and it was not authorized, I mean, these pieces of evidence can be declared inadmissible, and that would complicate the case for the prosecution, because they're using evidence that was not clearly authorized, it was not clearly obtained. So this is where we are, the question, the validity of this impeachment inquiry comes into focus because of these issues, and they all stem back to the initial hearing that started this whole thing, because the committee chair, James Comer, did not acknowledge, or he did not address the issue of the authorization like he should have. He just blew it off, saying, okay, well, this is just a preliminary. It doesn't matter if it's preliminary. If it's not authorized by the full House, everything that's done has no validity, and in a trial can be declared inadmissible or irrelevant. So that's the bottom line, and I think that's something that not many people have paid attention to, that because everybody's talking about, okay, they don't have the evidence, well, even if they don't have the evidence, whatever evidence they have, if it was obtained in the original inquiry, it's inadmissible and it's going to be invalid. So it's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out, because if it makes it to the Senate for impeachment, when they come to introduce evidence, the argument is going to be there about admissibility, and it's going to favor the defense, no doubt about it, because there was no authorization in the initial inquiry. And in the initial inquiry, that's where everything, as far as the evidence, was clearly obtained, not after it was formalized. To formalize it now is a technicality, but it doesn't change, as I said earlier, the underlying facts that everything that was collected, the testimony that was collected, is inadmissible for that reason. That's probably the reason why Hunter Biden did not show up for his hearing today. He probably knows full well that because the subpoenas are not duly authorized by a full House vote, they're invalid. Now, if the committee has threatened to vote on or put up for a vote contempt of Congress charges. The only thing is, if those go to court and this argument comes up, more than likely, it's going to work in Hunter Biden's favor because of the fact that the committee didn't do their homework at the beginning to make sure that they were duly authorized by a full House vote. These are just little itsy-bitsy things that if you paid close enough attention to the impeachment inquiry from the beginning, you would have known, you would have seen, and this would have made you question the validity, the legality, the ethical legality or validity of the inquiry and the procedure and everything in there. It's going to be a matter of waiting to see. That's the bottom line. How this is going to play out. And I think that's one of the reasons why even President Biden is not reacted, because he's like, okay, all this stuff is going to be inadmissible to begin with because they did not follow procedure when they called for the original inquiry. That's all I have to share with respect to that topic. I just wanted to put all that out there because I wanted to make people aware of exactly what's going on, because the topic of validity has come up, but not many people are paying attention to it, and they should, because that is going to complicate, or it's going to turn this entire impeachment situation in favor of the president and his son. Just have to wait and see. Well, thank you. I may come back online here in a bit to talk about a third topic. I'm still doing some reading and debating, but if not, I will come back live later on at another date. But I just wanted to go live. I usually don't do this format that I'm doing here, where because I have my own setup where I use my iPad, I use a camera, and but unfortunately, given the rush and hubbub of the last few days, I have needed to use my iPad at work, and I completely forgot to bring it. So I'm having to improvise here. That's why usually when I stream, you'll see the little logo on the bottom of the screen that says Open Point of View. That's saved on my iPad where I run the live stream, so I don't have access to it right now. But I didn't want that to stop me from going live, because I wanted to cover these two topics. So I decided to improvise this way, and I'm probably going to do that. If I go back live again tonight, I will do that as well. If not, well, I will try to go live tomorrow or Friday, more than likely Friday. So thank you, and have a good evening. And think about what I've put out on both these two topics, especially the impeachment inquiry, because I believe that many people are not seeing that, or they're not aware of it, and they need to be. Good night.